Kenan Thompson, a name many of us know from Saturday Night Live and countless other TV appearances, has always been a source of laughter and entertainment. But behind the scenes, something was quietly brewing that would later change everything for him. You won't believe what he was dealing with, and it's a story that not only surprised his fans, but even shocked him. Let me tell you this. Kenan was suffering in silence, and for a long time, no one had any idea. It all started over 2 years ago when Kenan noticed something strange. While doing his regular comedy shows and hosting gigs, he began to feel a constant discomfort in his throat. He would get hoarse more easily, his voice would crack faster than it ever used to, and even the simple act of talking seemed to take more effort. Imagine trying to make people laugh and carry on with your daily life when you can barely speak without feeling like something's wrong. But here's the shocking part. Kenan pushed through it. Instead of stopping to figure out what was happening, he thought it was just something minor. Maybe it was the long hours, the stress of performing live, or just the usual wear and tear that comes with being a comedian on TV. But soon, things started getting worse. He wasn't just getting hoarse, Kenan was losing his voice altogether. He began experiencing sleepless nights, burping up acid, and feeling the constant discomfort of something that seemed unexplainable. At first, he dismissed it. It's just heartburn, he thought. I'll get over it. But you see, this is where it gets interesting. Kenan wasn't just dealing with normal heartburn. He was suffering from something far more serious, and he didn't even know it. The thing about Kenan's struggle wasn't just the pain or discomfort. It was how quietly he was going through it, how much he tried to ignore it. Even with all these signs, he didn't take action. Not at first, anyway. For a while, he just kept pushing through, taking over-the-counter medicines to ease the symptoms. He avoided spicy foods, caffeine, and anything else that he thought might trigger the pain. But nothing worked. The relief was temporary, and every time it came back, it felt worse. But instead of giving up, Kenan just kept going, figuring it would eventually pass, but that's not how it worked out. And you know what? There's a part of this story that might surprise you. It wasn't until early 2024, after more than 2 years of this silent suffering, that Kenan finally decided to go to a doctor. Can you imagine going that long without knowing what's wrong? He didn't know if he was embarrassed or if he just thought it wasn't serious enough to see a professional. But when the symptoms became unbearable, he realized something had to change. And then, in that doctor's office, Kenan got his answer. The diagnosis was shocking. He wasn't just dealing with a bit of heartburn here and there. Kenan was diagnosed with gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. You know it as acid reflux, but for Kenan, it was something far more severe than he could have imagined. GERD is a condition where stomach acid constantly flows back into the esophagus, causing irritation, pain, and yes, even affecting your voice. Imagine not knowing there was a real medical term for what you're going through, and then hearing that you've been silently suffering from something so common, yet so serious. This was the turning point. This is where it all changed for Kenan. The moment he understood what had been happening to him, it was like a weight lifted off his shoulders. The funny thing is, even after all those years of not knowing, he didn't seem mad or upset. Instead, he was relieved. Finally, there was a name for what had been causing him so much pain. But what Kenan didn't expect next was even more surprising. The relief he was about to experience after all that time suffering would come from something completely unexpected. Once Kenan Thompson had his diagnosis, things started to look up. But let me tell you, the craziest part was how quickly everything started to fall into place once he knew what he was actually dealing with. For years, he had been silently fighting this battle, and now, finally, there was hope. After hearing the diagnosis, Kenan was prescribed a medication called Voquezna, and that's when things really began to change. It wasn't a miracle, but it was pretty close. You won't believe how quickly Kenan felt a difference. Within just moments of taking the medication, he began to feel relief. No more sleepless nights where he woke up choking on acid. No more worrying that he'd lose his voice in the middle of a live show. It was almost like a reset button for his body, and it didn't just fix the symptoms for a little while. It gave him a new chance at living without the constant pain. And here's the part that makes this whole story even more remarkable. Kenan didn't keep this to himself. Instead of just quietly recovering, he decided to do something with his newfound freedom. Remember, Kenan's always been known for using humor in everything, even the toughest of situations. That's why when he got better, he knew he had to use his platform to help raise awareness about GERD, a condition that many people don't even know exists. So he partnered with Fathom Pharmaceuticals and launched a campaign that would take the world by surprise. Kenan wasn't just talking about his experience in a commercial. He took things to the next level by playing a character on a fictional cooking show called Kick Some Acid Cooking Show, a chef who couldn't even eat his own food because of GERD. It was funny, relatable, and incredibly clever. Kenan knew how to mix humor with a serious message, and that's exactly what he did. His character was struggling to cook and taste the dishes he prepared, and the irony wasn't lost on anyone. He was shining a light on something so many people suffer from, but rarely discuss: the impact of acid reflux on everyday life. But there's something even more interesting about this whole campaign. You see, it wasn't just about making a funny commercial. It was about opening the conversation. Kenan used his experience to show people that it's okay to talk about these things, even the things that might be embarrassing or hard to share. The campaign was about breaking the silence around GERD, and he did it with a mix of humor and honesty that only someone like Kenan could pull off. What Kenan didn't expect, though, was how personal this would become. Yes, he was making a commercial, but the more he talked about GERD, the more he realized just how many people had been quietly suffering just like he had. It wasn't just about him anymore. He was helping others by giving them the courage to talk about their health struggles. It was clear that Kenan's role in the GERD campaign wasn't just about raising awareness. It was about changing lives. By this point, Kenan had already gone through so much, from the pain of living with GERD to finally getting treatment and relief. But what made this part of his story even more impactful was how he decided to use his experience to give back, to ensure that others didn't have to suffer in silence like he did. And just when you thought things couldn't get more surprising, Kenan was ready to share something even bigger with his fans. Kenan Thompson's story wasn't just a comeback from health struggles. It was the beginning of something much larger. You see, while Kenan had finally found relief with his treatment, the impact of his journey was only just starting to unfold. By now, everyone was starting to see the bigger picture, and Kenan wasn't just a comedian sharing his health story, he was leading a movement. And here's the thing, Kenan's decision to be open about his experience was about more than just spreading awareness for GERD. It was about changing how we view health, pain, and silence. It's easy to imagine someone like Kenan, a well-known star with a thriving career, being invincible, like nothing could touch him. But that's what made his story so powerful. He wasn't just some untouchable celebrity. He was a real person facing a real struggle that most people could relate to. By speaking out, Kenan reminded everyone that even the most famous faces go through tough times too. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Kenan's experience wasn't just about GERD, it was about how we as a society view health problems. So many people like Kenan suffer in silence because they feel embarrassed, afraid, or uncertain. They think it's not that serious, or I'll get over it eventually. But what Kenan showed everyone is that ignoring health issues or hiding them only makes things worse. The more people watched him talk about his struggle, the more they realized that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to not be okay, and it's definitely okay to ask for help. The campaign Kenan launched did exactly that. It wasn't just informative, It was a call to action. People were encouraged to talk to their doctors, to understand the symptoms of GERD, and to not feel embarrassed about seeking help. Kenan was helping people find their voice in a world where health problems, especially ones related to something as common as acid reflux, are often ignored or laughed off. The most unexpected thing about Kenan's journey was how much it helped others find their own answers. People started to open up about their own struggles, their own silent battles with conditions they thought no one would understand. And that's when the real impact of Kenan's story became clear. He wasn't just helping one person, he was helping thousands, if not more. But wait, there's a twist to this part of the story. You might think that after the diagnosis, the relief, and the awareness campaign, Kenan would just go on living a normal life, right? Well, that's not exactly what happened. Because Kenan had gone through all this, and because he had shared it so openly, it forced him to look at his life differently. This wasn't just about fixing a health problem. It was about changing his entire approach to life and wellness. Kenan, now more aware of his body and health than ever before, started making different decisions. He wasn't just relying on medication anymore. His whole lifestyle shifted. He began eating better, getting more sleep, and focusing on his overall well-being. His new perspective wasn't just about avoiding triggers for GERD. It was about living in a way that allowed him to thrive. And this shift in mindset wasn't just for him. He shared it with his audience, encouraging them to take a closer look at their own health and make choices that would help them live better lives. It wasn't just about the treatment. It was about prevention, about a new way of living that focused on health as much as it did on humor and fun. And here's where Kenan's story takes an unexpected turn. He wasn't just the face of a health campaign. He was becoming a symbol of hope for people everywhere. The more he spoke about his journey, the more people saw him as someone who had overcome adversity and was now living better, more purposefully. And the best part, Kenan was doing all of this with the same humor and energy he's known for, making the message stick in a way that felt natural and relatable. As Kenan Thompson's journey continued to unfold, it became clear that his health story was about much more than just a personal battle. It was a message, a powerful reminder that no matter who you are, no matter how successful or famous, health struggles don't discriminate. And the real lesson here wasn't just about GERD or even about how quickly Kenan found relief with medication. It was about how his whole perspective on life had shifted. By now, Kenan had not only healed his body, but had transformed his approach to health and wellness. But the most interesting part, this journey of healing didn't just stop at him. Kenan wasn't content with just getting better and moving on. He wanted others to benefit from his experience too. Through his awareness campaign, Kenan encouraged people to look after themselves, to prioritize their health, and to realize that taking care of your body is just as important as anything else in life. What makes this story different from others? Kenan's honesty. Kenan didn't hide behind a perfect image. He didn't try to make everything look easy. He showed the world that, yes, he was struggling, but also that it was okay to seek help, to not have everything figured out. And that's what made his message resonate so deeply with millions. Kenan's story didn't just change how we view health, it changed how we view ourselves. His journey was a wake-up call for everyone to pay more attention to their B's, to seek help when things aren't right, and to stop pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Because sometimes ignoring a problem only makes it worse. And sometimes it takes someone like Kenan, someone we all know and love, to help us realize that it's okay to ask for help. And here's where it gets even more inspiring. After everything Kenan had gone through, after suffering in silence for so long, he didn't just recover, he thrived. He wasn't just back to his old self, he was living a better, healthier life than he ever had before. The changes he made weren't just physical, they were emotional and mental too. He'd learned to listen to his body, to prioritize his well-being over everything else, and that's something we could all stand to learn. The craziest part of this story, how quickly it all happened. From the moment Kenan got his diagnosis to the moment he found relief, it was like everything clicked into place. But this wasn't a story with a simple, easy answer. It was about the journey, the struggles, and the lessons learned along the way. And perhaps most importantly, it was about Kenan sharing that journey with the world. By talking about his pain and recovery, he helped others find their voice too. He encouraged people to speak up, to share their own stories, and to not be afraid of asking for help. Kenan Thompson's unexpected health journey didn't just change his life, it changed the lives of countless others. By facing his fears, sharing his struggles, and embracing the changes that came his way, Kenan not only found a path to healing, but inspired others to do the same. His story proves that no matter how big or small your struggle, speaking up and taking action can make all the difference. And in the end, that's what Kenan's journey was all about, showing us that we are never alone in our battles and that sometimes just one person's story can light the way for so many others. Now, the journey that began with silent suffering ended with a new sense of purpose, health, and connection, reminding us all that no matter how tough life gets, it's never too late to take control of our health and change the course of our lives for the better.